Are you playing to the roots of Santee right now? You're playing to the old farm town vibe. I love it. You're listening to Whissel Weekends, AM 1170, The Answer. My name is Kyle Whissel, your host with Whissel Realty, joined as always by Mr. Jason Hall with Team Home Loans. And our guest today, Mr. John Minto, the mayor for the city of Santee. Before the break, we were talking a little bit about the movie theater updates and what's going on with that. Studio Grill in negotiations, hopefully breaking some ground before the year's over. So that is in the works. That's good to know that it's coming. It's just a matter of time.
Are you excited about that, Kyle? For you and Brittany to be literally 2 minutes from your house to be at a theater that, that serves, food and drinks and gives you that full experience that you guys been enjoying at the
we love it. I mean, we're excited. We got a new restaurant out there. It's called 52 East, and it's more of a craft style restaurant because Santee has a lot of restaurants, but most tend to be of the chain variety. So there's not as much mom and pop stuff out there as we would hope for. So a lot of times we're going into the village of La Mesa, North Park, downtown, places like that to get that vibe. But we've got that in Santee now, which is pretty cool. So 52 East.
Have you done a series on 52 East with your?
They've been featured on East County Eats. Better believe that. Yeah, they're good. I've never seen a place. Everything is scratch made there. They literally hand roll their tater tots. They're not like buying frozen tots in a bag and throwing them in the freezer. They hand roll them. That's the extent.
In a
all
great
the sauces
atmosphere.
Are handmade. Yeah,
reasonably
good beer.
Priced. Everything's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the executive chef there and owner is it's Adam Gilley, and he's a Cone restaurant trained person. And speaking of Cone restaurants, they're the ones that are going to open up a new brewery and restaurant and bowling alley in La Mesa.
So we're going to have a bowling alley going in that same place?
Yeah. Well, they're going to take over that whole site. Most people would recognize it on Fletcher Parkway because that's where the old Boll Weevil used to be at, the soup plantation. And
is that gone now? I was there. I think I was there.
Plantation's there.
It's not gone yet. But that's the site that they've purchased, and that will all be scraped and rebuilt there with a full entertainment
I better get
experience.
Is the Boll Weevil still there? Unbelievable, or it was literally called Unbelievable last time I was there a few months back.
Yeah,
is it gone or almost gone? I got to get there.
Well, they're not gone yet, but obviously a plug for La Mesa, and because they're doing great things over there too.
And who's the mayor of La Mesa?
Mark Arathistefis, and we just call him Dr. A because most people can't even say his last name. and I might not even have got it right, but it's pretty close.
There's no way I'll even try.
Nobody's going to know the difference.
Yeah, there's no way I'm going to try.
But speaking of breweries, though. How's that for a segue?
So let's look at this. I don't even need to be here. You could just run the show. This is great.
All right, you're out of here. Jason, it's you and me.
Yeah, we would have fun.
So let's dive into this. Being on the real estate side of things, I did my research, and I know that Karl Strauss purchased a 5-ish acre piece of land at the corner of Town Center Parkway and Cuyamaca.
That's great.
And it's been over a year now since they purchased said piece of land. And we don't have any brewery yet. So what's going on with this?
Well, it has been a while. If you are following any Facebook, chatter, you'll see that somebody actually just put up a new page called, something like "Where's Karl Strauss?" And they're starting to ask those questions because people in Santee are eager to see that kind of.
That's exciting
amenity.
for them, for Karl Strauss, right? They're excited that people want
it.
That.
It is. I can tell you that. One of the questions that came up is the environmental community causing a problem and delaying this? Well, I can tell you that there have been some issues with the environmental community. They like to see some things happen there, but that's not the only reason. I know that, for instance, when that was sold, Ryan Company was involved, the County of San Diego, City of Santee, and, of course, Karl Strauss. And when you have that many fingers, in
the pot,
in the pot, obviously it spoils the broth a little bit, to lack of old sayings.
Yeah, you understand that? Kyle's shaking his head, like, "What's a pot? What's broth?"
Yeah, that's so old. I don't even know it's going to be on Google. But.
So there's a lot of little issues that are hanging around there, but we've been in contact with them. They're eager to get things done. The city extended their entitlement to the property because once it is entitled, there's a timeline, and that's based under civil law, believe it or not. And so we extended that because we want them to be here. The community wants to be here. And most importantly, they want to be here. And if anybody's ever been to a Karl Strauss restaurant, they know exactly what they're going to get and how beautiful they are.
All right, Mayor Minto, let's cut to the chase. When do you think it's going to happen?
You know what? I have no idea, but I'll tell you what. I think we'll have a theater before we have a brewery.
Okay.
However, the fact that the theater is coming in, it has kind of hastened their pace a little bit to move forward on this.
All right.
Because they like it. That whole area over there, we're looking to make more of an entertainment area, having more shops and things of that nature. My idea is having kind of a village type, feel in it.
Kyle's got that smile just hearing about that village type. He likes that.
Well, if you've been to Carmel, Morro Bay, or a lot of places like that, you know what it's like to walk down the street and have picturesque type buildings and views.
So what is it that's holding it up? Like, why? I understand there's a lot of parties involved, but like more specifically, what's holding it up?
Well, I don't know the exact reason because everything is pretty much rumor right now. But I can tell you that a lot of it has to do with their timing. They're in a building over in San Diego. There's some work going on there by the Metropolitan Transit System. They're looking to buy the buildings from Karl Strauss. There's some lease back things going on there. So there's just a lot of things going on right now that we didn't anticipate when this first started coming together. And once all that happens, I think you'll see things move probably pretty quickly.
Yeah. I'm surprised they closed on the land without having everything dialed in and ready to go.
Well,
I mean, that's a lot. I know how much they paid for it, and it's not a small number.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy that they purchased it, and now it's just sitting.
Well, that's not unusual, though, because I can tell you that a lot of those, what we would call infill, whether it's for commercial or residential, the property is usually purchased first, and then they do their
due diligence
planning and all that stuff. And because banks really, they're not going to give you a construction loan if you don't own the property or if there's just, some ideas that you're going to own that. And that's part of the problem with, like, for instance, yesterday, there's a 31-acre parcel right next to where we're talking about that sold in that town center area, was purchased by a bid of $19 million. It's probably overpaid by about $6 million is my guess, or so. But it's somebody that's really not familiar with Santee. We don't know really what they want to do in that area yet, but we have a specific plan that we want to see happen there. And so they're either going to conform with it. Their bank's going to either, give them money based on what is going to go there or not. And that's going to determine whether or not they can actually keep that property.
That'll be interesting.
So is that at the end of the road by the college?
It is. It's a kind of an odd-shaped piece of property there because it also includes the frontage of Mission Gorge Road and near Cottonwood intersection, and then to the north.
Okay.
So interesting.
31 acres. Wow.
Yeah. So I mean that vacant land, and there's a drainage ditch on that. It's going to take anywhere from $5 to $6 million just to mitigate that alone. So when you think about they spent $19 million, now they're talking about a $24 million project before they put anything on it.
I've got some magic beans.
Yeah.
I'd like to be connected with this buyer. I'd like to see if they're interested in purchasing some of my magic beans. Sounds like they've got some money that they need to burn.
Sounds
like the good news is with both you guys living in Santee, you've seen the changes over the years.
Yes.
Mayor Minto and Kyle, you've seen changes. You've known about Santee for many, many years and then been a resident the last 5 consecutive years. It's an amazing community that just continues to grow, and people are investing, and that's why people are buying property. And, that's why Karl Strauss bought it. And sometimes it doesn't go as quick as we want, but the good news is they got the ground.
You have to stay on it.
Yeah.
A lot of people ask the question about how come you haven't reached your goals. And for me, when I describe, attaining goals, not attaining a goal doesn't necessarily mean you haven't been successful. That's like if you want $1 million and that's your goal and you've only made half of that, well, you've still been pretty successful if you put up $500,000 in the bank. So that's the way I look at it here. We're looking to grab that brass ring on all of these amenities. And you know what? We might not get all the brass rings, but I'll tell you what, the ones that we're going to get are going to be the dynamic ones that make our community the ideal place to live.
Nice. What else we got for Mayor Minto, the mayor of Santee, right here on
We're saving
Whissel
the
Weekends?
big ones for the next segment. But
right.
The other question is, how does the environmental stuff impact? Because obviously, like the Karl Strauss site is along a riverbed. How does that come into play when somebody wants to build?
Well, in this particular case, I know that the environmental, the environmental community, they would like to see buildings situated differently on the property, and I don't necessarily disagree with them this time, although probably should have had that conversation long before we had the project come forward for approval. They would like to see some buildings rearranged so that people have a better opportunity to enjoy the river. And, that's not a bad idea. If you've ever been to San Antonio, for instance, and you've seen their river walk there,
right.
and, there are mayors and planners and developers from all across this country. Well, not just in this country, but around the world.
They come check that out?
That's right, because it's probably one of the most dynamically used. And that comes back to many, many, many years ago, some very visionary people. And the reason why it's there even is because of flooding. They had to do something to mitigate flooding. And although we don't have that problem here, not that we couldn't
further
someday,
down the river, though, people
Right.
forget that runs all the way through Mission Valley.
It does. If we could even find somebody that's willing to put the money into building something close to that, I'd be all over that in a heartbeat. And that would really go to our vision of the village type of commercial area. So the environmentalists, I say that they're absolutely necessary for us because, they think of things that we don't always think
Sure.
about. And so it's good to have that. But we need to make sure that we all work towards the same goals, a vibrant production of businesses and industry and
If we have no
manufacturing.
tax dollars, we're going to have no environmentalists. You know that, right?
Yeah, well, if we don't have tax dollars, Kyle and I will be living again in the unincorporated county of San Diego because Santee would go bankrupt like many other cities
Yeah.
that don't have the ability to continue to grow. When you think about the rising cost of everything goes on today, just in your own personal lives, and you multiply that towards what we have to pay for in the cities just to have business done, it's our sheriff's contract goes up about $800,000 a year, and if our you know how it is, if your revenue stream does not keep pace, how do you pay for that stuff? Well, you have to
IOUs,
keep building.
right? Yeah.
Well, you get rid of police officers. Well, who would want to do that?
Yeah.
Not me.
Definitely not somebody 29 years as San Diego police officer, right? But it's crazy. A lot of cities have.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So what do we got come up on the next?
All right, so we're going to head to a break. We're coming up to a big one next. Fanita Ranch. They want to build 2,000 plus homes in the city of Santee, which would increase the population by over 20%. So
is this
I'm
good or bad?
excited.
We're going to talk about that.
We will talk about it,
Pros
get the
and
mayor's
cons.
opinion on this. You're listening to Whissel Weekends, AM 1170, The Answer.